Welcome back to another edition of the Hart2Heart Podcast, and my guest today is Brian Richards. Brian is the CEO and founder of SaunaSpace, although I think they are in a rebranding stage right now, so I'll have him tell me about that. So Brian, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
So I wanted to chat with you for a lot of different reasons today, but I've been using your product like crazy for probably the past 3 to 4 months, and like I've had a sauna for I think about 4 years now, and I'm a super heavy user. So like 5 to 7 days a week, I'm usually in there. And since I've gotten your product, I've used it inside the sauna every single time. So so that kind of makes sense for people. I have a far infrared sauna, and then I put your product inside my sauna. And since I've had your product, I haven't used the sauna without your product, is what I'm trying to say. So I've really, really enjoyed it. But before we kind of get into it, can you give the audience just a little bit of a brief background about yourself?
Yeah, I'm the CEO and founder of SaunaSpace. We're based in Columbia, Missouri. Our products are all made here. I'm actually in the factory right now. You can see some folks working behind me right there in the window.
That's awesome.
And I started the company in 2013 as part of a health journey that I got on for my own health problems. So I was dealing with some acne and some adrenal fatigue, and I was kind of lethargic, kind of irritable, and I wasn't happy with the situation. I didn't want to take any drugs for it. I wanted to figure out, what is the root cause? I love the way Dr. Group says it, that the root cause of all disease is disharmony in the internal and external environment.
And who said that again? Sorry?
That's Dr. Ed Group of Global Healing and Global Healing Institute. It really, I think, brings clarity and simplifies the situation. We're not born with anything. Our bodies are perfect. We have this perfect universe inside of systems, and both physiological and energetic that heal us constantly. We're constantly detoxing, and we're constantly like repairing things. So I was looking for a solution. My mom's a general practitioner. She's always been super amazing. She was, doing recommending supplements and vitamins in the 80s in Montana when I was growing up. Little did I know how like super vanguard and awesome she was and is.
Super forward thinking. I mean, a lot of physicians now in 2024 still think that, like, there's literally physicians, I think, like all, supplements are basically garbage, so good, kudos to your mom. I mean, doing that in the 80s, very, very forward thinking, but didn't mean to interrupt you there, brother. Go ahead.
No, yeah, she deserves that veneration. She's really amazing. She started all this. She said, Brian, you're probably just toxic. You probably need a detox, and you should get a sauna. And I was like, huh. And so I looked this up and found this amazing research into sauna and how it reduces your risk of all-cause mortality. And it's this most powerful way of detoxing the body and all these things. And I found an interesting concept at the end of my research called the electric light bath. This was the using of incandescent light bulbs for powering a sauna. And it was invented by Dr. Kellogg like 120 years ago. And so this guy, he had a clinic in Michigan, in Battle Creek, and he tested his electric light bath on 50,000 chronically ill patients. And he wrote this book about it called Light Therapeutics in 1910. Oh, shit. And that's wild, right? Like light therapy in 1910. Well, it turns out there was this whole movement in the early 20th century that it wasn't just him. It was Dr. Babbitt, Dr. Dinshaw, Dr. Gaudiali, and others who were using electric light bulbs for healing. All very well documented, and unfortunately disappeared in time with the rise of the AMA and the FDA and sort of the monopolization of allopathic medical care as healthcare. So nonetheless, you can see this book online, and it's got like these big cabinets with these light bulbs in it. And so he concludes, like, after studying literally and logging 50,000 patients, 200,000 sauna sessions, that wow, this electric light bath, it heals everything, every chronic illness you can think of. And he didn't know about mitochondria. He didn't know what we know nowadays about red light and near infrared light, how it works in our cells, how amazing it is. He said, though, there's something special about this light. It heats the body up better than a traditional sauna. And there's some additional effect of the light itself. It's healing. So I was like, really moved by this, and I built my own. So I'm kind of a tinker type of guy. So I was like, okay, I'll just build my own. And I used it right before bed, and I slept well. So insomnia was another one of my frustrations, just not sleeping well, not hard to fall asleep. And I used it, and I woke up like, boom, amazing. Like the sleep I used to have, before I got into this situation. So I use it before bed the next night, the same thing. My insomnia is gone. And then I began to use it while I was like, wow, I'm going to use this like you, 5 to 7 days a week, for the next 6 months. Everything else resolves. My skin's looking amazing. I realized that I had brain fog that I wasn't really aware of, because I had this real sharpened mind and focus and patience and just kind of overall mood, those qualitative things that are so important, to everything you do. So that's the story, man. I was blown away by all this, and I was like, well, where's the electric light bath? Why can't you buy it? And so I started making it for friends and family in my house, like a little bricolage, a little ugly thing. I shouldn't say it's ugly. It was beautiful, but it was very simplistic. And I got an early call, and meanwhile, I'm doing rental real estate as my main job here. I'm fixing up houses. And this early customer calls me who has severe onset of autoimmune issues, lost her job, couldn't leave her home, family relationships stressed. And she's crying, but crying with joy and saying, I've been using your product for 3 or 4 months now, and you're not going to believe it. I got my life back. I can leave my home. All my symptoms are gone. I got a new job. Everything was transformed. And I was so moved by that I was like, drop the tools where I was working and formed the company, got a business loan, and just put everything. I poured everything of myself into this one thing, and I actually never finished up that house. I ended up getting rid of it, but here I am now, 10 years later, and the sauna market is pretty crowded, Michael. There's like lots of companies. There's lots of light therapy companies, and yet we continue to have this really awesome success because we have a technology approach that's different and a design approach that's really different, and focusing on like the whole experience,
Yeah. I mean, I've loved, using your products. And the, reason that I really wanted to get it was because I wanted to have red light therapy inside my sauna. So I had a far infrared sauna that I purchased, like I said, I think in 2020. And then, all the ones online like Kala and Huga and the other names that are kind of popular. Kala's popular in Canada. I don't know if you know who they are. But anyway, I read that like you can't put it inside a far infrared sauna. And then I just kind of put it on my Twitter one day. I was like, does anyone know of a red light therapy that you can put inside a far infrared sauna? And I don't know who the person was. I wish I could give them credit right now. And they just sent a link of like your product. And I clicked on it and I was like, this looks pretty interesting. And then I ordered it. And like I said, I've been using it since. But anyways, I just want to get into a couple questions there for you about the products and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of the light distribution that you guys selected, and thanks again to your excellent customer service for getting this information back to me when I asked them. So I was just curious, how much of the light is near infrared versus far infrared versus mid infrared and that kind of thing. And so what they indicated is that it's about 2% red light, 1% yellow, 39% near infrared, 41 mid infrared, and then 17 far infrared. And so how did you guys land on those particular numbers?
Yeah. So all of this light therapy that we do is based on our experience with sunlight. So that's the original light therapy. In the ancients called it heliotherapy. So you were sick, you went outside and got as much sun as you could. So the biological programming that we have is all aligned with benefiting from the light of nature, which is only sunlight, really. I mean, a little starlight, but primarily sunlight. So let's look at sunlight. Sunlight has, it does have some ultraviolet and blue light that's damaging to us, and some red, but the majority of sunlight is near infrared. And then there's some mid infrared and a tiny bit of far infrared. And the light that we get from the sun, even though it's like 40% spectrally, according to the ratios that you described, spectrally it matches our bulb, or our bulb matches it. But it's important to understand that light, each wavelength penetrates in the body differently. The most deeply penetrating wavelengths are near infrared. It's not red. It's actually near infrared. It's the part of the sun's band that's just beyond red that our eyes can't see. So in this unseen band, over 70% of the power we absorb from the sun is there. So it's like over 70%, the vast majority of our experience with the sun is near infrared. So we wanted to match the natural light experience that we have. We're beings of light. And yes, the initial light therapy research said, oh, there's a lot of mitochondrial response at 660 nanometers. That's red light. And then there's a fair amount more at 830 nanometers. That's when you get into near infrared. So let's make these LED panels where we give you this one wavelength and a really high power level. But what we are saying is, no, there's actually an entourage effect to light, just like there is with food. Just with the tomato, you pull out one vitamin and you take a lot of that, you don't get as a beneficial effect as you get when the tomato is in its natural form and you consume it. You get like the synergy of all the compounds that are together in their natural proportions. So it's the same thing with light. We're supposed to get all of the wavelengths in a power distribution where each wavelength has a different power, and getting all of it at once. So that means mostly near infrared, some red, and some mid and far infrared, but mostly near infrared. So our bulb is an incandescent bulb. That's the way the sun creates light, through incandescence. That's how natural light is created. Materials are heat up really hot, and they emit a full spectrum band of frequencies that are in this natural proportion. And so our bodies want to get that. And the difference is not just in saying, okay, if we're going to give light therapy, let's give all the wavelengths to give light therapy. That's 600 to 1,000 nanometers. That's red and high energy near infrared. It's not just that. It's also what you commented, like why you wanted to bring light therapy into your sauna. It's light and heat together. In nature, we always got light as heat and light as light. Like the wavelengths of heat from the sun are mostly near infrared and mid infrared. And those are the ones that where the light is heating us, but particularly the near infrared is heating us radiantly. So when you stand out in the sun, you can feel like you're getting heated from within. That's what's called radiant light.
I just wanted to make one comment on that. This is how I've always described your product. I said, it feels like the sun is shining on me inside the sauna. And so when I say that, when I say it feels like the sun is shining on me, what I'm really feeling there is the near infrared light. Is that correct?
Predominantly, yeah. I mean, you know, there's some visual cue of seeing the red of the bulb, and the sun has some red in it, and the red does have that stimulating effect, but it doesn't really go in deep. Primarily, if we're talking about that light therapy effect and how we're feeling it is in the nervous system, in the brain and the spinal cord and the nerves. And those wavelengths of near infrared are the only ones that go through your skull and go into your brain and activate the cells and the healing inside. So yeah, when we feel the sun, we're really feeling mostly this majority near infrared spectrum.
Yeah. I just want to make one comment on the brain, because this was insane, this study. I'm not sure if you've seen this. I think it was put out in 2023, so just last year, but there was a meta-analysis on different cognitive parameters on outcomes. So they took like exercise, they measured, there was like enriched environment was one, there was some computer stimulation one, but exercise, was there, like I said. And then also they did red light and near infrared light. And so they found that was actually the most effective in reducing cognitive decline. So, what you're saying about the red light just kind of really resonated with me when you were talking about the brain, because, there is studies now showing that not only that it's effective, but it's more effective than things like exercise, which we thought was, potentially the most protective thing against cognitive decline.
Yeah, it's such a good point. It's really, to make it simple, we're beings of light, and not in a metaphorical sense, in a physical sense, in an energetic sense. We're consuming photons from the sun and converting them into electrons in our body for energy and for healing. Like when in the summer, you don't you're not as hungry usually when you get lots of sunlight. That's because you're getting fuel directly into your mitochondria, into your energy producers in your cells directly from the light. It's actually like up to 70% of your caloric needs can be satisfied by sunlight. That's if you're getting tons of, hours and hours a day. Like there's these light eater cults in some of the Eastern cultures where they don't eat anything. They just drink a little bit of water, and they spend like 2 weeks and they get sunlight all day long. And it's this cleansing, purifying thing. Like, how are they surviving? It's the light. The light is literally fueling them. And in fact, light is the number one nutrient we have. Forget about food and anything else. Like, light is the most essential stimulus that we have in our environment. Our DNA produces light. The mitochondria talks with the nucleus with near-infrared wavelengths. Like, all of everything in the body is much less biochemical so much as quantum mechanical and electromagnetic. Like, everything's being controlled by little electric fields. And that's what light is. Light is electromagnetism that's natural. So it is super important. There's more than that research too on the use of light therapy with whatever light source that has near or near infrared or red in it for brain problems. Absolutely.
And then regarding, your kind of personal use of it, like, do you combine it with far infrared, or do you feel that, it's okay just to use the product on its own, like in a small space or a bathroom? Like, it seems like, people, get benefits from both methods, but, optimally, do you kind of recommend people using it inside of far infrared?
So we do sell our Hearth panel on its own for guys like you who already have a cabinet sauna and they want to upgrade to this full spectrum near infrared approach. And our primary product is our Firelight sauna. That's part of our rebrand, is our new name. That's the sauna panel you have that's delivering the light and the heat in a portable organic enclosure that we make, here at the shop. So the thing is, it's important to understand, well, what is going on here? Are these two different therapies? There is light therapy and there is heat therapy, but is the heat therapy from radiant light from, a SaunaSpace Firelight bulb, is that different from the heat from your far infrared sauna? The answer is yes and no. So the benefits of heat, if we look at the sauna studies, the longevity studies, reduction of dementia, all of these amazing thousands of studies now, they all have one thing in common. It doesn't matter what the heat source is. To do a good sauna session, we need to raise core temperature 3 degrees and sweat out like a pound of water, like a half kilo of sweat. And we can do that with a hot tub or a far infrared sauna or SaunaSpace style sauna, a traditional sauna. If we sit in there long enough to achieve that outcome, we are getting the benefits of what we call heat therapy, heat shock, protein therapy, hyperthermia, sauna therapy. It's all the same. The question then becomes like, well, no, how are they different? The difference is in how we're heating the body. If you use a traditional sauna or a far infrared sauna like you have, if you didn't have our heater in it, you'd have to preheat it, right? Yeah. Like an hour. And then you have to sit in there a long time, probably an hour, to get that level of sweat response, that level of core temperature increase.
I will say I was using it about 30 minutes before I got your product, and now I can have a good session in 12 to 20 minutes, 20 minutes, that's a tough session. So it's literally like reduced it by essentially, half almost overall.
Yeah. Yeah. So the advantage is that with your hearth panel that you have, you're using near infrared light that's radiant and penetrating many inches into the body. So with our saunas, you basically don't have to preheat it. And it's usually a 20, 30 minute sauna session. With our 7 bulb system, what we call our super sauna, it's no preheating and it's like a 12 or 15 minute session. It's super fast. So when we use near infrared light to heat the body, we just heat up the body a lot faster than a traditional sauna. But in the traditional sauna or the regular far infrared sauna, if we stay in long enough, we're going to get all those heat therapy benefits. What we're not getting is the light therapy benefits. And that's a big issue with LEDs, is they're very sort of susceptible to heat. They degrade them really fast. So if you see a sauna that has an LED panel like component included with it, it's usually on the outside of like the glass to protect the LEDs themselves. With our technology, it's designed to be really hot. And it's with the light and the heat together, the feeling is really awesome. You know, there's like a really zen feeling with the light therapy involved.
I totally agree. And I just want to ask one more question just about the heat shock proteins and what you're saying earlier. So you said that in order to get heat therapy benefit, all you really need to do, it doesn't really matter what you're using, is to raise your core temperature by 3 degrees and then to sweat roughly half a pound of water, and that will induce heat shock proteins. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah. You want to get a sustained heat, not just a little bit of heat will have some response, but the research indicates that 5 to 8, 5 or 10 minutes of raising the cell temperature 3 degrees, you get the max response you can get.
Okay. So maybe it's after you've reached after you've raised your core temperature 3 degrees, then you want to stay there for about 5 to 10 minutes to get the full benefits. It's not to the 3 degrees. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. If you wanted to measure this, you could with like an instant read thermometer. You can measure it in your sauna, measure your base temp, go in the sauna, and you'll see your temperature climb. Once you hit, if you're at 98.6 base, then you're at 101.6 or 102 degrees. If you can stay in there another 5 minutes, keeping, making sure you're being safe, then yeah, that's when you're getting that max output. That was actually the third in these longevity studies. Those were 2 out of the 3 things that they were saying. These are the endpoints of a sauna. So the temperature increase, how much water you sweat out. And then the third thing is reaching a state of subjective exhaustion. When you do that, it's like exercise. Like you get to that point, you're like, boom, wow, I'm done. If you do another few minutes, you maximize the amount of dynorphins you produce. These are little compounds in your body, and that leads to a greater production of endorphins afterwards. So a little bit of uncomfortability feels really good, right? Afterwards. The same thing applies to sauna.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I go in there for like the 20 minutes, and I will admit that I can't do the full 20 with a heat on at the same time. I need to take like a couple 2-minute breaks in there. So I might only be getting like 16 minutes of the red light therapy, but then, 20 of also the far infrared. Like my heart rate goes up, and like when I open that door, it's like, it's a massive change in like my overall physiology, like I feel completely different like after I get out versus, getting in. And just coming back to that, to one question I had. So that's kind of, you kind of answered it in some ways. So I was a little bit concerned that because I'm not doing 30 minutes in my far infrared sauna anymore, I'm only doing, up to 20 minutes. Maybe I'm not getting now, as much benefit from the far infrared, but it seems like that's kind of silly for 2 different reasons. So one, your product also produces far infrared. So I'm getting more far infrared, when I'm using that product. So I'm kind of getting like a double dose. And then it also seems that just seems to be related to the far infrared is more related to the raising your core body temperature. And so as long as, I get to those parameters of, raising, my core body temperature 3 degrees, sweating out half the pound of water or half a kilo of water, and then feeling, subjectively exhausted, then I'll be getting those heat shock proteins. So in all that, basically the answer to that question is like, no, like I'm not missing out by, by not doing just 30 minutes of far infrared sauna versus, using your product within it for a short period of time.
Yeah, I would distill that into 2 different responses. You are correct. It's not about the time you put in, and it's not about how hot the air is. The only thing that matters is the physical response in your body. And you could literally weigh yourself before and after a sauna session to see like, well, what is this half a pound? What does that look like in terms of sweat? And you can measure your temperature with the thermometer. So that's the physiological response is how you gauge, is this an effective sauna session? And then in regards to what you said about which wavelengths heat you, know that the body's mostly water, like over 70% by weight, even more volumetrically. We have tons of water in us, and water absorbs light. And this is how infrared heats us. Water begins to absorb light in near infrared. and it doesn't absorb so well. So the near infrared wavelengths go in the deepest, and some of them are stimulating mitochondrial response if they hit the mitochondria, but then if they hit a water molecule inside of either heating you radiantly from the inside out. So there's a heating effect from near infrared. Then after near infrared at 1500 nanometers, you have mid infrared. That's also heating you. It's just that water begins to absorb that light more and more strongly. So once we get into far infrared, those wavelengths are also heating you, but they're 100% absorbed by water. So the wavelength of far infrared is heating you more from the outside in. It's being absorbed by all the water molecules like in your skin. The near infrared is really unique in being able to get much deeper and heat up the water molecules deep inside your body. So all the wavelengths of infrared heat you, and you could use just a far infrared sauna to heat you, but it's going to heat you from the outside in a lot slower. When we add in near infrared, we heat the body up radiantly and just a lot faster by heating it within. So all of them are good. This is near infrared is more effective and faster at heating the body. But all these wavelengths, they're all doing the same thing. They're heating up the cell and promoting, mostly the heat shock protein response, which is helping cell detox and improves protein function. It fixes your proteins and how they work. There's other things too, like heat increases blood flow and oxygen delivery. There's vasodilation that occurs, some things that actually happen also with light therapy that are kind of overlapping, but it's all these wavelengths will heat you. So you could just use your far infrared sauna, or you could use your far infrared sauna like you are with a near infrared SaunaSpace in there, the Hart in there, or with our product, you just use the Hart, and you're getting phenomenally effective radiant heat that makes you sweat really fast. And you're getting the light therapy as well from red and near infrared.
That's awesome. And in terms of, how long people's sessions should be, and also I wanted to get actually to how far away you should stand from it. I think that you recommend on your website 10 to 20 minutes, and you can do 1 or 2 sessions a day. Is that correct?
With our 4-bulb Hart system, so it's 1,000 watts of power. It's we actually recommend between 20 and 35 minutes, and it really is user specific. You have to figure that out. For people who don't know or want to be real left brain that want a protocol, you can measure how much you sweat and how much you raise core temperature. You can start out with 20 minutes. You can go up to like even 35 or 40 minutes. Oh, wow. With our 7-bulb system, though, it's so fast that you're totally done in 12 to 16 minutes. And you're not preheating it at all. So those are the general protocols. If you're unhealthy or you have like a heat sensitivity, maybe you have autoimmune symptoms, you might start out with less bulbs, like 2 or 3 bulbs, and you might only do 5 minutes to start. It's to ease your way into it. You can start shifting. And the point of this is to be really safe. Sauna is so effective because it activates the intelligent detox and healing systems in your body. So your body knows what it can detox and when, and it's very safe, but we can't overdo it in sauna. And that's a good thing to say, like, how long should I do? Sauna is hormetic stress therapy. So that means that there's a maximum benefit after a certain period of time, just like light therapy, just like cold plunge. And we don't want to overdo it. So we want to kind of get in there and get a nice sweat on and get kind of uncomfortable, but we're not staying in there an hour.
Okay. And in terms of how far away you should stand from it or sit from it, what's the optimal length?
In our sauna design, you sit about 2 feet away from the bulbs, the chest and the torso about 2 feet away. The legs are a little closer. That's kind of the optimal distance. You can get a little closer. It can be more intense that way. You can also be a little farther away. If we're talking about light therapy, there's in the literature, if you want to think about it like left brain and what does the research say, therapeutic photobiomodulation is 10 to 100 milliwatts per centimeter squared. So there's like a power level range that is considered to be therapeutic. And so our 4 bulbs, it's like 70 milliwatts at 2 feet. So it's right there in the middle of the range. If you add more bulbs, it's more. As you go farther away, you reduce that power level. So you can be up to 3 feet away and still definitely be getting like a therapeutic range. If you're like 5 feet away though, you're you're getting a much more modest amount of light therapy. However, that also is same with the heat. You get less heat that's direct, and it's a little less intense. So for some people, that might be a great way to start out. But for you and for most people, you want to be about 2 feet away.
So if you like, what is the kind of metric or equation if you want to know exactly how much red light therapy or near infrared therapy, or light that you're getting, like, would you, times it by the watts, by how long you're in there, by like the length, like how do you know, I guess, like today I got X amount of, near infrared light therapy. Like, how do you actually measure that? Or is that something that hasn't really been teased out yet?
No, we know how to measure it. It's kind of difficult to calculate, but you could use a calculator online. Essentially, I said milliwatts per centimeter squared. So milliwatts per square centimeter on your body. And a watt is a joule second. So that's an energy unit times a second. So you basically take your milliwatts per centimeter squared and you multiply that by how many seconds, and you'll get a joules per centimeter squared dose that you'll get on your body. And you can do this online. You can figure it out. I should probably write a blog article to explain it better. But
what's the website or thing that people can use to? Do you know the name of the calculator or the one that you use to kind of measure it?
Well, you with our product, it's incandescent. It's called black body radiation. So you can look at a black body radiation calculator to figure out how much milliwatts you're getting in the photobiomodulation range from 600 to 1,000 nanometers. And then, but the easier thing to do would probably be to buy an irradiance meter, and you can measure how much milliwatts or watts you're getting from the source that you're getting. You could say, okay, my chest is right here. I'm getting this many milliwatts of red and near infrared. And then you can multiply that by a number of seconds. But even if you get there, it's like, well, how many joules is ideal? What should I be getting? And so for me, I like to just go more with feeling and understand what the natural context is. So the sun, on a cloudless day at the equator, the sun is giving you between 20 and 70 milliwatts per centimeter squared of near infrared. So I think it's no coincidence that we see therapeutically in the literature, well, what's good, 10 to 100. If we get way beyond that into 200, it's too powerful. It's too much stimulation in the body. It's really intense. That's where we see declining benefit. But even 1 milliwatt of near infrared will stimulate a cellular response. It's very little. It's just not as powerful as getting a more therapeutic dose. So when you're sitting in front of the bonfire, that's also an incandescent light source. There's not a whole lot of near infrared in there because it's cooler than our bulbs and it's cooler than the sun, but it's not just heating you. It's actually stimulating this mitochondrial response very modestly, like we're talking about. And that's what you kind of want to go for. So with our product, we're matching kind of the spectrum of the sun without ultraviolet and blue light. And we're matching the natural power levels that we get, on Earth from the sun. Okay.
And in terms of you just mentioned, ultraviolet light, obviously you guys are not, including ultraviolet light in your product. There's no EMFs, there's no blue light, but is there still some need to get some, UVA and UVB light, in addition to red light?
Yeah, absolutely. No man-made technology replaces the experience with sunlight. And ultraviolet light and blue light do have benefit. They're just very dose dependent. There's not a whole lot of them. We know that the benefit of ultraviolet by UVB, I think it stimulates this vitamin D response in our body, which is great. Vitamin D is very important for so many things in the body. And at the same time, we recognize that ultraviolet light is ionizing. So it mutates our DNA. It causes damage to our DNA. And blue light is very important from the sun during the daytime because it promotes melatonin production in the pineal gland. And then when the sun sets, that melatonin gets released, and that's part of maintaining our circadian rhythm. That's part of why it's so bad to get blue light after dark, like what we're getting nowadays from all of our home LEDs and our iPhones and stuff. So know that that ultraviolet and blue light are these high energy wavelengths from the sun that do cause damage to us. Even though there's some biological adaptation, some good response, it's nonetheless killing us. However, it's a small amount of ultraviolet and blue and an overwhelming amount of near infrared you get from the sun. That near infrared is going into the cell. It's reversing the oxidative stress. There's epigenetic repair. There's regeneration and inflammation reduction. There's all these amazing things that light therapy does that is quite a counterbalance to any of the damage that the blue and the ultraviolet do. So none of these man-made technologies replace the sun, but most of us are not getting much sun. Most of us, and we're getting 5 to 8 minutes a day in America on average of sunlight, and the sun we get, we're clothed, so we're not getting that on our internal organs and any of like not on our whole body at all. And the one other thing I would add is, are you sweating? Because we know that the body's most powerful means of detoxification is sweating. If you think about it, the liver and the kidneys and the bowels, they're working all the time. And we're also breathing all the time. Breath is another powerful way of detoxing. It's the skin that needs to be activated, and we're not doing that. So if we're not getting enough sun and we're not out there predominantly, like mostly naked or half naked, and we're not getting this passive sweating experience, then we're perhaps not doing enough to live in the modern environment, because the modern environment is super toxic and our food's not so nutritive. But there's this built-in way that we have to repair and regenerate and purify, and that's essentially sauna therapy that does that.
Have you found people that have used your product with autoimmune diseases, like particularly like skin conditions like eczema, psoriasis? Like, I'm not sure if you're allowed to make any medical claims and stuff like that, but just like testimonials from, people who have used it. Have they found any benefit with using this product?
Yes, absolutely. So, I'm not making any medical claims. You can read our customer stories though on sauna.space on our website. You can just go to the product page and you can search like eczema, and you can see when we use light. So light is the use of red and near infrared to heal damaged cells and optimize function of healthy cells. And when we use heat on the whole body, we detox the body, get the poisons out of us, and we have the cellular rejuvenation that occurs because we repair protein function. When we do this, these are non-specific ways of re-optimizing function in every cell of the body. So skin is such an obvious thing for people. It's usually, if you have a skin issue, it's a sign of something deeper, but we're talking about giving the body the triggers it needs to repair itself. So if you look at our customer reviews, you see every disease category, people are getting better. It's just really non-specific. It's everything from cardiovascular to neurological issues to autoimmune issues to skin issues, eczema, things like that. Our customers are reporting, yeah, absolutely. And you see that in the research too, with light therapy and with sauna. Combining these two things are probably the two most powerful therapeutics you can do. So you can check them out on the website. There's tons of stories. That was my story too, is I had acne on my body, like on my back, and it took a while. It probably took like 2 months or something, but it slowly resolved. All these things are just, again, root cause disharmony in the internal environment. We need to cleanse and get rid of the things that don't belong, and then restore any like damage that was caused. And ultimately, how can we be our highest and best selves when we have things inside of us that don't belong to us, that aren't ours? So that's all the toxins, heavy metals, it's plastics. Nowadays, it's also nanoparticles like graphene oxide and stuff. Like, there's a lot of things out there, that detoxing to be really healthy, if you want to be your best, really becomes like a daily and weekly lifestyle choice nowadays.
Absolutely. And one thing I've noticed, and like, I don't know if other people have noticed this with using your product, is whenever I use it, I do find that my readiness score on my aura seems to be a little bit higher the next day. And I've done like just a little bit of research on that. And there was a little, I forget which study it was that pulled up, but it indicated that like people who are physically exhausted, who use red light therapy, recovered much better than people who didn't. And I'm not really sure what the repair mechanism is there. Maybe it's just as the mitochondria stimulation that we've been, talking about, but it does seem to help just, I guess, with like, again, like the overall readiness on aura. I know that's not like a super scientific thing, but it seems overall to maybe help a little bit with heart rate variability. I don't know if anyone has specifically mentioned that to you, or if you guys have looked at any studies on that, or if you can like hypothesize, why someone's heart rate variability may improve with using red light therapy.
Yeah, that's a great question. Heart rate variability is a pretty, probably one of the best health markers that you can measure. And it's basically a measure of the flexibility of your nervous system. So it's a difference in your heart rate between your inhale and your exhale, basically. And humans are designed to like switch our nervous states really fast. If we're really healthy, we get something dangerous is going on, and we go into this fight or flight state, and our hormone regulation changes, and we become really powerful, in a responsive way. But when that stimulus is gone, when the danger is gone, our nervous system is supposed to immediately relax. So if you have really good HRV, you're able to swing back and forth really easily. And so what about light? So yes, there is some interesting research in light therapy conditioning our cardiovascular system and conditioning our immune system and conditioning also our nervous system to be more flexible, basically. And what's also interesting is sauna also comes in with that too. When you do a sauna session, you can measure this with an Oura ring, like watch your HRV or like an Apple Watch or something. Your HRV will spike and improve immediately after the sauna session, because you have this huge swing into your relaxed nervous state that occurs. Even though in the sauna session you got a heightened heart rate and you're sweating and all this stuff, it's a little bit of a sympathetic activity. Right after, you get this improvement in your nervous system that you can see in increased HRV. And you also see with sustained sauna sessions, increased base HRV, your resting HRV, which is what you want. So actually, yeah, if you look into it in the light therapy and in the sauna therapy research, there are benefits to HRV.
Yeah, very interesting, because like I said, when I've used it, I've noticed that my HRV, has improved with it. So, I'm sure others will probably mention that to you too. One thing that, I think a lot of people probably want to know, and, we can run through this in a little bit of detail if you want. So, there's 4, I guess, big different types of red light therapy. We just have the red light, which we mentioned, near infrared light, the mid infrared light, and the far infrared light. And so when people ask you, to explain the differences between those 4 and what they really do, what is your answer?
So with light, again, looking at all these wavelengths that you just mentioned, there's really 2 categories. There's light therapy, where it's also called photobiomodulation. And that's where red and near infrared light from 600 to 1,000 nanometers hits our cytochrome enzyme in our mitochondria. Cytochrome means cell of light in Latin. And it stimulates mitochondrial response. So we get all these amazing benefits: inflammation reduction, regeneration, repair. We get anti-aging effects. That's a system where 600 to 1,000 nanometer light is activating the mitochondrial healing system. If it's any other light that's beyond 1,000 nanometers or so, or maybe 1,100 nanometers, including half of near infrared, all of mid infrared, and all of far infrared, the benefits only come, or the benefits predominantly come from the heat effect. So those wavelengths are not absorbed by the cytochrome C. They don't activate the photobiomodulation effect, but they do heat us, and they do have all those amazing benefits of heat. Heat is not just about detox. You get improved energy production in your cells. When you warm the cells up, you get things move around a lot better. But it basically breaks down in those 2 categories. So the 600 to 1,000 nanometer light, that's red light, and half of near infrared is doing photobiomodulation, and then the rest is doing heat. And in the products that are out there, if you're talking about light therapy, it's mostly LEDs and lasers. And then there's us too, with our firelight bulb. If you're talking about far infrared heat, usually in a far infrared sauna, there are long ceramic tubes that are called far infrared ceramic emitters, or there's these black carbon panels. They're far infrared carbon emitter panels, and those are only emitting far infrared. And in some saunas, you also have these vertical towers, like by the door in cabinet saunas, that are called near infrared emitters, where it's this like coil thing that's emitting some amount of near infrared. But just to explain really quick, like LEDs, if we have a red light panel, it's only 660 nanometers. It's one wavelength and this really high power dose. It's kind of like vitamin C powder. If you have a near infrared light panel, it's one wavelength at usually 820, 830 nanometers in a really high power level. There are some LED panels that are combo panels, and they'll have one wavelength in red, one wavelength in near infrared. So like, again, this like fractionated form of light in this really high power level. With what we do, with the firelight bulb, that's broad spectrum, we're giving you all of those wavelengths that I just mentioned, from 600 to 1000, and all of the heating wavelengths, predominantly near infrared, in this natural form of light that's more like the orange. It's much more light in its natural form. So these things LED light therapy is effective. It stimulates a response for sure. But I think those of you who out there who've experienced it, I find it to be kind of clinical feeling. You know, okay. It kind of has like a kind of a clinical feeling to it, where our product and our light experience feels like the sun. You know, it feels really good.
That's exactly what, like I've said, like I've posted about it like several times. Like that's exactly how I explain it to people. I was like, it feels like the sun is shining on me. And then because I have it inside the sauna, I say it feels like the sun is shining on me inside the sauna. Like it's crazy, you know? And so, you know, I absolutely just love it. That's really interesting though about the red light panel. So yeah, from my understanding, like red light is, you know, maybe it's 600, but 620 to 750 nanometers. And then your infrared light is about 750 to 1400 nanometers. But again, it's really the cutoff of around 1000 to 1100 nanometers, where then it becomes less photobiomodulation and more of a heating effect.
Correct.
Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Correct.
And then with the panel, so that's interesting. I didn't know that. So some of these panels, like they're just putting out just like 660 nanometers, whereas yours would put out, you know, a little bit of 660, 661, like basically through the whole spectrum that goes with it. Interesting. And then maybe some panels have like, you know, 660 and 820 or something like that, but they still, you know, don't have all the full spectrum. So yeah, something that I didn't know for sure. And then in terms of the difference, I guess, between red light and near infrared light, so the penetration depth of the near infrared light is a little bit further than red light, and that would produce some differences in effects. So maybe you can talk about a little bit of the difference of effects just between the red light and near infrared light, if you can.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So red and near infrared light have the same exact effect when they are absorbed by the mitochondrial enzyme. However, they don't penetrate the body in the same way. Red light is absorbed by hemoglobin and melanin. There's what's called, this is kind of techie, but it's called the optical window of biological tissue. It's from, you know, it's basically 600 to 1400 nanometers, and it's a well that the deepest part of the well is at like 950 nanometers or so. So that's in near infrared. On the back side, it's water absorbing everything. That's what I explained earlier. On the front side of this window, it's melanin and hemoglobin. So melanin's in our skin. It's a pigment that makes us tan. And then hemoglobin is in our blood. That's everywhere in our body, right? So all of the red wavelengths are blocked by that. So the difference between red and near infrared is red is only going in, you know, maybe a centimeter or something like that on average, more or less. Near infrared wavelengths have been shown to go like several inches into the body, even 4 or 5 inches in one NASA study. It was like 23 centimeters into a calf tissue. It was a huge calf. I don't know what that looked like exactly, but all that to say that if we want to do light therapy on our brain, only near infrared light penetrates bone tissue. And if you think about our bodies, they're thicker than 1 centimeter. We want to get this healing stimulation into our gut and our liver and our spleen and into our bones themselves. And of course, maybe most importantly, into our brain. So if we're going to do light therapy, remember that the sun is mostly near infrared, and for the reasons stated, near infrared is a lot more effective at bringing the therapy to the deepest tissues of the body, the deepest cells of the body. So if I was to get an LED panel, I'm not going to because I got my stuff. But if I was, I would definitely get near infrared. And near infrared's weird because you don't see it. So it looks like it's not on. With our bulb, what you see is red, but the red is only like a few percentage, like you mentioned earlier. It's mostly the hidden wavelengths that your body sees, your body feels, but your eyes can't quite perceive.
Interesting. And then in terms of using your product, one thing that I forgot to ask earlier was I do turn around like every 2 or 3 minutes because I'm just trying to get like all parts of the body. And is that the best way to use it? Like, is that the best way to get red light is to make sure that, it hits your front, hits your sides, hits your back. And, if you didn't do that, what would be the consequences, or what would be the benefits of using it, by rotating versus not rotating?
When you rotate, you maximally expose all of your tissue externally and internally to the light. And so you get a maximum dosing that way. If you're only facing the SaunaSpace panel, you're only getting the light therapy, several inches in your body on the front side of the body. So it's not really getting to your kidneys and your tissues of your back and stuff like that. So yeah, we recommend you rotate every 5 minutes or something, like a quarter turn, or every maybe 8 minutes. You can just rotate front to back depending on how you have it set up. But some rotation, you not only maximize the light therapy, you have an interesting effect with the heat. So facing the hearth, you heat the front body up and it gets really hot. And then you rotate and the blood will then start shunting from the front side of the body to the side. And you get a faster, more quick distribution of the heating effect in your body. So when you rotate, you can get more power per second of light therapy and heat therapy, but not get too much. And when you rotate, have this additional shunting effect. So your overall benefits are increased and your sweat response is faster when you rotate.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I find that, when I get in there, especially because I have my sauna preheated usually to around 65 Celsius, maybe I think that's 145, 150 Fahrenheit, something like that. I mean, I'm sweating within 2 to 3 minutes as soon as I get in and turn it on. And then again, I do rotate. And so by the end of it, I'm just like a bucket of sweat. I haven't, measured it, but I'm definitely going to do the scale thing, like you said, before and after. Anything else that you wanted to mention regarding the product?
Well, we talked about the sauna a lot. I love to mention my favorite part of our product line that we make here, and that's our glow. So this is the new name. Used to be named the Photon. Now we call it the glow. So it's our technology in one bulb on one little panel that's super portable. And this is not a sauna. It's used outside of the sauna, anywhere in the home, for so many different things. It has some really cool use cases. So number one, you can use it on the body for spot therapy, just like wherever you have a symptom, you just shine it on that area to reduce and bring healing there. So that's the sort of classical use. But you can also use it to cancel out blue light and flickering light. So we get blue light from our screens, right? And our overhead LEDs. So I'm using it right now at the computer station for technology fatigue and screen fatigue. If I take a meter right here, a spectrometer, and I measure the blue light from the overhead LEDs and the screen, it's it would be a lot normally. But the light from the glow, the firelight, it cancels out the measurable amount of blue light and the measurable amount of flickering light, and you feel that. So it can be used anywhere indoors to like bring this outdoor spectrum indoors and also cancel out and kind of optimize the indoor lighting environment, where we're not designed to get all this blue, and all the LED light nowadays is all, and fluorescent light, it has a huge blue component that we're not really programmed to deal with. It stresses us out. Blue light causes oxidative stress, so it causes aging, and it stresses our nervous system out. So this is a way to like transform the lighting environment indoors, make it the way it used to be, where you sat next to the bonfire and you have that amazing feeling. You can also use it for clean light after dark. You know, we don't want blue light after dark, but what lighting do we use? And we can't replace the LEDs that are built in our home. You can use the glow light or our hearth, like in the living room or anywhere in the, you know, on the nightstand in the bedroom, and have this like really beautiful, calming, clean light that doesn't have any blue light or flickering type of issues. And then you can also use it to mimic the sunrise and the sunset. So humans are supposed to get the sun in our eyes right in the morning, and the early morning sun is mostly near infrared. It's actually way more than ultraviolet blue. So that's why people gaze at the sunrise, you know, for eons we've been doing this. If you get blue light instead, when you wake up, like you grab your phone and that's the first thing you look at, you distort the hormonal systems and others in the nervous system of the body, and you put yourself in the stressed out state, and that has a damaging effect to everything throughout the day. Instead, if you get near infrared, you'll like calibrate your body, your hormones, all these different things to have an awesome day. And if you live in like Canada or Michigan or something, and it's super cloudy out, super cold, you can shine the light of the glow light or our hearth just for like 1 minute even on your face, and it mimics the sunrise. So, you know, the sun is the best, of course, but physiologically it's programming our body for the day. So you can mimic sunrise and sunset when you don't have access to it. And you can use it as like an adjunct therapy to anything you're doing, for like breath work or yoga or meditation. It's really wonderful for creating the mood. It centers people. It opens people up. It's that mood of being next to the fire.
What about like, say, you know, I work in a very busy walk-in clinic, and I've been thinking of, you know, I do have an office in there. So I was thinking of, you know, just putting, some kind of light in my office, that I have, you know, something in there during the day, so that I'm not just getting, you know, blue light or, you know, LED lights all day. Like, is that something where it would be helpful as well, you think? Yeah,
that's exactly where you'd use our glow light. You could just put it on the table, or you can have it on our optional desk arm product, but you don't even have to point it at you. You can just put it on your desk and point it up, and the light shines all the way out, and it cancels out the majority of the effect of the overhead LEDs. So it's really any indoor environment. It could be an office, you know, a clinic, or your home or your living room or your kitchen while you're cooking. Anywhere indoors where you have this LED light that you can't get away from.
I only got you for another couple minutes, but I wouldn't mind asking you a question about, there's a product called Luminet 3. And anyways, they're glasses, they're mounted glasses, and then they shine blue light straight into your eyes. And so, you know, they're saying like you should use this in the morning to, wake you up and to mimic sunlight. Like, do you think that shining, you know, blue light into your eyes would be helpful in the morning? Or you're kind of squirming there? And I don't know if you know Dr. Alexis Jasmine, but I had her on, you know, maybe about a month or two ago, and she was kind of like, no, like just blue light without any other light, like that's so bad. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are on it. You seem to be less than impressed.
Yeah, it's a curious thing. It is interesting though, for example, for SADS, seasonal affective disorder. Yeah. The allopathic recommendation is what's called a SADS lamp. And that's fluorescent or LED blue light. So this big blue light, this huge amount of lux, and you shine it in your face. What that does to your nervous system is it's kind of like a high, like caffeine or nicotine. You know, it gives you a stimulation. And so you get jacked up, and that can feel good. That's why when you walk into stores and the malls and stuff, they're blasting you with blue light, because they're trying to get you into sympathetic, excited, nervous activity. So you get some stimulation from that, but I would say it's the wrong type of stimulation, especially since we have too much blue light nowadays. So if you want to mimic the sunrise, I would say either go get real sunlight, or understand that the sun, the solar spectrum, is mostly near infrared, and we present ourselves as a spectrum that mimics that much more effectively than just doing one wavelength. All these products where they say it's just blue light, there is we know there's some benefit, again, the melatonin and all that, but you're not supposed to just get that because it's stressing you out. With the sun, you're getting that blue along with the healing near infrared at the same time. So I'm not familiar with that. I'm more familiar with many of these SADS lamps, and I can't make those medical claims. I'm not a doctor, but we have so many customers use our glow light in the winter, for mood, basically, and have an amazing benefit with it.
Awesome. Well, I know you're a busy guy, and I've used up our hour here. So just let people know where they can find you online, and where they can get your product.
Yeah, everything's on sauna.space. So our website, we're based here in Missouri, in the Heartland. That's where everything's made. We have in-house customer care, so you can call, email, and chat with us, during the weekdays. And also check out our website. There's a lot of information like what we talked about in our Learn Center, like the spectrum of the sun and the spectrum of our firelight bulb and how everything works. We actually have a cool little bit of a rebrand, a start of our rebrand you can see on our website. And also, if you want to do more deep dives into the science stuff, check out our Instagram at SaunaSpace and our YouTube at SaunaSpace. I have a lot of convos I've done on there, and testing with EMF meters and stuff like that. So at SaunaSpace on our social, and then sauna.space is our website.
Awesome, brother. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you also for making a wicked product that I used almost every day. And thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And as always, I'll be back again soon.